I've never before read such a unique fantasy story with such a unique culture and so many unique characters. This really is a one-of-a-kind book, and you should most certainly read it. Unless, of course, you don't like good books. If that is you and you love garbage literature, then skip this one. It's not for you. Just this last month, Rebecca Roanhorse released a book entitled Black Sun. It is the first in a brand new series, and it is the first of this kind that Rebecca Roanhorse has written. She's done some other books, I think even some other that are fantasy related. I know that she's also written in the Star Wars universe as well. But this one is entirely unique to all of those. In fact, I would say that it's entirely unique to any other fantasy book that I've ever read before. Here's why. We'll start with culture. So many fantasy novels have been written with a European flair, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you think European, think like castle, moats, knights, those kinds of things, and those are good stories. Again, nothing wrong with that. But this book explores a culture that is inspired by pre-Columbian America. Recently, there's been a lot more fantasy books being written inspired by various cultures other than Western Europe. Like, I've read books set in Middle Eastern culture, Asian cultures, and others. But I've never seen one that has explored pre-Columbian America, Native Americans. And it was so refreshing. It was so different, and I wasn't used to it, so it took a little bit to get into. But as I did, and as I began to at least believe that I could pronounce some of the words and the names and understand the cultures that were being presented to me, the more that I fell in love with this novel. Now, let me give you the plot, and it's going to be a little bit difficult because it is a little bit convoluted. We've got 4 different POVs. 2 of them are relatively easy to explain. Shiala is a teak, which means that she can use kind of some magic, her song, to be able to sway the hearts of men, women, and the sea. And she is captaining a ship that has the second POV character, Serapio, on board, who is a blind, mysterious, hopefully harmless character that needs to get from whatever location they start at to the holy city of Tova by the time of Convergence. Those are the 2 what I would consider main POVs. You've got 2 more. You've got the Sun Priest Narampa, who is in the city of Tova already, dealing with the drama and the inner feuding of the different clans there in the city. And then you've got a young man named Akoa, who is returning to Tova because his mother is recently deceased. And it's just fascinating to watch how Roanhorse weaves these plots and these divergent stories together by book's end. And it is so well done. The story is not full of action sequences. There are very few like battles or anything else that you would expect in a lot of fantasy. This story is completely character driven. While the plot is good, and while the few action sequences that there are good, it's the characters, and there is a richness and diversity and so much beauty and color in all of the different casts and characters. Roanhorse really did a good job really building out this fantasy world that hadn't been done before, but in there placing these unique, incredible characters that have history, that have depth, that have creativity, that are different from one another, but that really meld together exceptionally well. One of the cool things that the author does here is that at the beginning of each chapter, we get the date, and it tells how many days until Convergence, which is it keeps the pace moving along, and it keeps the reader saying, oh my goodness, we're getting closer and closer. So every chapter and every day that is passed raises the stakes a little bit more, because Serapio, or Shiala, has to get Serapio to Tova by this time, no questions asked. And we know that within the city, from these other perspectives, that they're moving towards the Convergence as well. It's a certain time in the celestial calendar, and so it's all moving to this one breaking point. So from the beginning of the book, we have it set up that, hey, it's going to culminate on this day, and then for the remainder of the book, we're moving closer and closer to that fateful day. Black Sun is not an exceptionally long book, and it's one that's very gripping. So once you get in and actually get hooked, then you'll probably be able to fly through it, because it's not something that you have to even read slowly because of again its pacing. So it's really intended to be read at a rapid speed because of the way that the story is structured and built out. So you could read this in a few days, and maybe you should. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I think it's a great start to the Between Earth and Sky series that is going to build out the rest of the story. I am intrigued by these characters. I'm intrigued by this world building. I think it's such a refreshing and new form of fantasy that I'm most certainly here for, and I think that you will be too. So find a copy of Black Sun, purchase it for yourself, read it, and get ready for the long haul as the series continues over the years. I know that if the second book is anything to the quality that this first book is, and I have no reason to doubt that, then this is going to be one of those standout series. Hey, I'm curious, if you know of any other really good fantasy books that are set in cultures that are not Western Europe, could you let me know in the comments down below? Again, I've read some. In fact, I'll include a list of some of my favorite non-European fantasy books down below. I'd love to know yours, because I would love to include those in my TBR list, so I'm not just reading the same thing over and over again. And hey, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, for clicking like. If you haven't yet, click subscribe, join the Dragon Army, and we'll see you in the next video.